Good morning, everyone. Virgo here. It is November 7th, 2019, and welcome to Snoop4Truth. So we haven't had Snoop4Truth for a few weeks due to some treatments that I was receiving that made me a little bit weaker than normal. And as a result of that, I wanted to make sure that now that I'm feeling better, we got Snoop4Truth back on track. Today, we're going to be dealing with, once again, Deborah Tavares and a hoax that is just a real nilly, let me tell you. This particular hoax we're going to call the Deborah Tavares and the Genocide Agreement hoax. Yes, you heard it right, folks. Let's take a listen to what Deborah Tavares has to say about the Genocide Agreement.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Deborah Tavares with StopTheCrime.net, your co-host on today's program. I want to talk to you further about the Genocide Treaty. This is imperative, and it's built and based upon the fundamental understanding that we do not have a government. We need to all understand that we are in a warfare called attrition, the action or process of gradually reducing the strength and effectiveness of someone or something through sustained attacks or pressure. That's what we are all confronting now with the weaponized weather assaults all over the world. And we are going to get into more of that after I continue with the Genocide Treaty. So, the Genocide Treaty allows for a government to kill an entire race of people. Only a
Here we go again, folks, with the claims that everyone is wanting to kill off humanity in the government. So we are going to be taking a look at a few different things with regards to this particular hoax. But before we do that, let me just show you some places so that you are aware of what are going to be pinned to the comment section in this video that you can click on and actually listen to. As you know, after Deborah Tavares does one of these videos that claims such doom and gloom, there are a number of individuals that pick up and peddle that information on social media and on their own websites. And Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis is one of them. The Genocide Agreement, as you can see, he's got this wonderful looking graphic, and you see this is, of course, based on the Genocide Agreement. And there is a monologue that is written by Clyde. We're going to go ahead and continue on to the next one, which happens to be a audio that is on this particular website. And this is a individual who has placed the Genocide Agreement with Deborah Tavares on an audio for you to listen to. It's always amazing to me how many people seem to relish in horror in a way that makes them want to spread it without doing any actual research on it. It's really quite sad. Here we have a blog. I'm not going to make any comments on this, but here we have a blog where you can actually see the very first thing that pops up on this particular blog spot is the claim of emergency. Rothschild implementing UN Genocide Treaty, focusing on North America. And here we have here the very same beginning of the video that you guys started listening to, the Genocide Treaty with Deborah Tavares. And they're telling you over here to scream it from the rooftops. You know, this is just, wow. Okay, so continuing on. Here we go. Okay, now that I've gotten that straightened out for you guys, here we go with the actual Genocide Treaty information that is on stopthecrime.net. Now, we don't want to forget to give you that information. Stopthecrime.net actually belongs to Debbie Tavares. It is where she likes to peddle all of her own hoaxes and scams. This, of course, being another one. So that link will be located in the description for you to follow as well. All right, now, folks, this is one I want you to pay closer attention to. The Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. This is the actual document. This is important for you to be able to locate in the comment section. This particular link will be highlighted, and the reason for that is because this is the actual document that is being lied about. So this is where the hoax was generated. This is the real actual document on the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. So if you want to actually read all of the articles in this, then I think that this link will serve you well in order to do that. I'm not going to read all of them. I don't think that's actually necessary. I'm going to be highlighting the areas of importance later in this video, but I do want to make sure that you're aware that a copy of this is actually available for you pinned to the comment section. Also pinned to the comment section is the United Nations site, the page of the Genocide Convention, so that way you guys can actually take a look at the legal framework for that. This is the United Nations Office on Genocide Prevention and the Responsibility to Protect, available to you to take a look at in the comment section. And again, some additional information for you to take a look at with regards to the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide from 1948. This link will also be located in the comment section, pinned there for you to take a look at and confirm information I'm going to be providing to you today. And finally, as a last resort for additional information on the Genocide Convention, this is the Wikipedia page that shows that the Genocide Convention, the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, signed December 8th of 1948 and effective January 12th of 1951, and the location and all of the information that goes along with this particular convention that you can read a short synopsis, as Wikipedia is generally fairly good at providing for you, but there's much more in-depth information by just reading the articles yourself, but I did want to provide it to those that actually wanted to have a short summary. All right, moving forward. As further factual evidence with regards to what I'm going to be discussing in the remainder of this video pertaining to the Genocide Convention, here are the congressional records of debates and proceedings that are for and against the actual signing. And so here is one of the congressional records from February 20th, 1970. And then there is an additional piece of information here that is from February 13th, 1970, from Members of Congress for Peace Through Law. And you are welcome to take a look at that information. In addition, the links will be pinned to the top of the comment section. First, let's take a look at the definitions that revolve around this particular hoax. 1. A treaty is a nation's agreement with a single other nation. And 2. A convention is a nation's agreement with multiple other nations. The document is real, so the hoax is not the document itself. The Genocide Agreement is actually the nickname of a proposed 1940s United Nations Convention banning genocide among signatory nations. For additional information on this, you can actually locate in the comment section that's pinned there a highlighted video that you can go over and watch all about what the Genocide Agreement is actually about. The proposed Genocide Agreement banned genocide of identifiable groups of people such as national, ethnic, racial, or religious groups. But the proposed Genocide Agreement also banned, number 1, causing serious bodily or mental harm to such people. Number 2, inflicting physical, destructive conditions upon such people. Number 3, preventing births of such people. And 4, displacing the children of such people. The proposed Genocide Agreement made the following acts punishable. 1. Committing genocide. 2. Conspiracy to commit genocide. 3. Incitement to commit genocide. 4. Attempting to commit genocide. And finally, compliancy in the commission of genocide. Under the proposed Genocide Agreement, an individual accused of violating the agreement could be tried in the state where the alleged offense occurred, or could be tried by an international criminal tribunal under certain specific circumstances. Further, under the proposed Genocide Agreement, nations would be bound to extradite their own citizens to other nations for prosecution in accordance with existing extradition treaties between those nations. And finally, under the proposed Genocide Agreement, any dispute arising out of the interpretation, application, or fulfillment of the agreement would be decided by the International Court of Justice at the request of any party to the dispute. So here's the controversy. At the time, which was the 1940s through the 1980s, senators from southern states in particular opposed the Genocide Treaty because of its implications with respect to the racial struggle between whites and blacks. Certainly, a racially identifiable group of people as defined in the Genocide Agreement. They argued that under the Genocide Agreement, white citizens could theoretically be tried and convicted for merely opposing racial integration in schools and merely supporting racial segregation in schools. For example, arguably the displacement of the children of such people as specifically prohibited by the Genocide Agreement. Other senators opposed the Genocide Agreement because of its implications on state and federal sovereignty. invades domestic law, allows foreigners to override U.S. law, etc. Regardless, in 1988, the United States Senate approved the Genocide Agreement, and President Reagan signed it into law. So the hoax is not the document itself. Here is the first part of the hoax. Deborah Tavares fraudulently defines the Genocide Agreement as, quote, an agreement to allow the practicing of genocide on a day-by-day basis, end quote. Deborah Tavares also fraudulently claims that as a direct result of the Genocide Agreement, the, quote, killing of entire populations is happening now, end quote. Thus, Deborah Tavares fraudulently claims that the Genocide Agreement, quote, actually supports, that was the quote, Genocide Agreement, actually supports genocide and actually causes genocide. So let's take a listen one more time to what Deborah Tavares actually says about the Genocide Agreement.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Deborah Tavares with StopTheCrime.net, your co-host on today's program. I want to talk to you further about the Genocide Treaty. This is imperative, and it's built and based upon the fundamental understanding that we do not have a government. We need to all understand that we are in a warfare called attrition, the action or process of gradually reducing the strength and effectiveness of someone or something through sustained attacks or pressure. That's what we are all confronting now with the weaponized weather assaults all over the world. And we are going to get into more of that after I continue with the Genocide Treaty. So, the Genocide Treaty allows for a government to kill an entire race of people.
But none of this is so. The Genocide Agreement is an international convention that actually bans genocide among signatory nations and subjects those individuals who violate it to criminal prosecution under international law. Thus, the Genocide Agreement prevents genocide. It does not cause genocide, the exact opposite to what Deborah Tavares fraudulently claims in her hoax. Number 2 part of the hoax. Deborah Tavares also fraudulently claims that the Genocide Agreement only bans nations from committing acts of genocide, and that the United States is not a nation because it is a corporation. This is not governed, which is not governed by the agreement or the ban, which permits the United States to commit genocide on a day-by-day basis, which is why we are being exterminated, which are her exact words. But the truth is that the United States is not a corporation, and the Genocide Agreement actually bans genocide in the United States and subjects those individuals who violate it to criminal prosecution under international law. Here is the third part of Deborah Tavares' hoax. The hoax is also Deborah Tavares' own entirely inconsistent and conflicting claims that the Genocide Agreement does apply in the United States, despite that it is a corporation and that it invades domestic laws and allows foreigners to override the U.S. laws. Note that if the Genocide Agreement really did not apply to the United States because it is a, quote, corporation, it would be impossible for the Genocide Agreement to simultaneously apply in the United States so as to, quote, invade or, quote, override any law in the United States. Regardless, the truth is that the Genocide Agreement does apply in the United States, but only overrides U.S. law as to specific acts that are banned by the agreement, and nothing more. So here's the conclusion, folks. The United States may actually be killing us all in an act or acts of genocide and furtherance of the planned extinction of mankind, but this particular document itself, upon which Deborah Tavares herself says she bases this particular claim, provides no support for that proposition. Because this document applies in the United States and it actually bans genocide and subjects or those individuals who violate it to criminal prosecution under international law. As we've seen in the past so many times with Deborah Tavares, she takes great pleasure in making up these lies and falsities and spreading them across the internet to incite fear and hatred, to bring about more distrust than people already have of their own government. And let's face it, when people actually distrust their government enough, and enough people distrust their government, that's when we actually start having problems with weakening from the inside out. I don't understand why these individuals choose to do this. It's so very damaging to everyone. And the fact is, there's no actual or factual basis behind their claims. But people are lazy these days and would rather watch a YouTube video instead of doing their own research. Anyone could have actually taken a look at the Genocide Agreement and read it in its entirety. It's not very long, just a few pages, and found that Deborah Tavares' claims are 100% false. But a good percentage of individuals don't have the time, don't have the patience, don't have the attention span, and some of them don't even care enough. They'd rather be angry. It's easier. I want to thank Snoop4Truth for once again bringing this to the forefront and letting everybody know of more lies and fraudulent claims that Ms. Tavares is making. Sooner or later, I hope that people will start realizing that they have to actually research what they're watching to determine whether people are telling you factual information or not. I hope everybody has a wonderful day, and thank you once again for watching Snoop4Truth. Bye-bye.